Welcome back, everybody, to my annual October ranking series. This year I'm counting down my 31 favorite horror movies from the 2010s. In the number 9 spot, we have a movie that legitimately got to me. So at number 9, we have It Follows.
You awake? You're not going to believe me, and I need you to remember what I'm saying.
I love the simplicity in this movie. You all know me. I enjoy simplicity in horror movies. Of course, I've said many times there are exceptions, but I adore simplicity in my movies. And this movie has a very simple premise. This young woman has a sexual encounter with this man, and the next thing she knows, she's being followed by this entity that only she can see. And it moves very slow, but it's constantly following her. And it's basically a spirit, ghost, or demon, or whatever it is. It's transferred through sex. So this guy she had sex with passed it on to her, and now it's following her. And if it catches her, it will kill her. And but it moves very slowly. That's one of the main things with it. It does move slowly. And she has to deal with this thing following her, and she needs to find a way to pass it on to someone else, if she even wants to pass it on to someone else. And that's the basic gist of this movie, just this woman being followed by this entity constantly that if it eventually gets a hold of her, it will kill her.
This thing, it's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you.
Now, as much as I love gore in my movies, I am a gore hound, I do love suspense and tension. For me, I love that stuff. And yes, I am a gore hound, and I love suspense as well, but if I had to pick between the two, I like suspense more than gore. And this is a very suspenseful movie. And one of my favorite ways for a movie to deal with suspense is, like, I've talked about this before on my channel, but a lot of movies, they, they'll build up to, they'll build the tension up, they'll wind the tension up, and then they'll release it in a big scene. But then you have movies that accumulate tension around a specific idea. So, yes, you still have those moments where the tension raises and then it kind of releases it, but the tension and the suspense is always there, because it's all built around a specific idea. You know, movies like The Thing are a perfect example of that. You know, there's a creature, there's an entity, there's an alien being that whatever it touches, it can replicate genetically, and you have these people in a facility that are trapped there with this thing that can imitate anyone, and it creates paranoia around that aspect. You have The Fly the Fly remake by David Cronenberg, where this guy through various means becomes genetically fused with a fly, and he starts slowly genetically turning into a fly-like creature, and it builds the tension around that. What's he going to look like next time we see him? What's he going to look like next time? It Follows builds tension the same way. There's this thing following this woman constantly. It never stops. It moves very slowly, but it never stops, and it's always after her. It can look like anybody. It can look like someone from her past. It can look like someone she has never met before. All you know is that this thing is following her constantly just to get a hold of her and kill her. And that's the gist of the idea. You always know that this thing is following her, and because of that aspect of it can look like anybody, you're constantly looking at people in the background. Is that the thing, or is that the thing coming after her, whatever it is?
It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd. Whatever helps it get close to you.
And that's such a great way to build tension, because it has you constantly looking around in the background, wondering if one of the people you see in the background is this thing coming at her. And the fact that, yes, she can eventually get away with it, but because it's always following her, it's eventually going to catch up. So even those scenes where things can relax a little bit, you can never fully relax because you know that whatever this is eventually going to catch up to her. And then there's that added element of this being, this entity, is passed on through sex. So the only way to get rid of it is to pass it on to someone else. And that is, creates this moral dilemma as well. It's like, yes, this thing is after me and I want to get rid of it, but I would have to pass it on to someone else. And so it creates this whole, like I said, it creates this whole moral question around this movie, which I love. And I love how this movie doesn't explain everything. It doesn't really tell you what this thing is that's constantly following her. I mean, we know the rules. We know the rules for how it works. It moves very slowly, and it is always going to come after her, and she has to pass it on to someone else through sex. And the extra caveat of that is, if the person she passed it on to is killed, it will go back to her afterwards. So, it goes back down the line or whatever. But I love how we are not really given an answer to what this thing is. All we know is it's some kind of being that is following her, some kind of supernatural being. We know the rules, and that's all we need to know. There's no explanation for what exactly it is. In so many horror movies where you're dealing with some kind of supernatural thing or supernatural curse, they always, not always, but in a lot of them, they over-explain it. It's like, oh, this was caused by, like this woman was burnt as a witch, and then she put a curse on whoever, has sex and the thing like that. But anyway, but that doesn't happen here. We are given all the information we need. We don't need to know more. We don't need to know anything else about this thing, really. All we need to know is the basics. And rules, setting up the rules for how this thing works. I love when a supernatural being has rules to it because it can make things scarier. Like, a great example of this, of course, I'm sure I mentioned this before, but Freddy Krueger, he can only kill you in your dreams, so when you're awake, you're safe. But when you go to sleep, that's when he can kill you and you can't avoid sleeping. Same thing, similar thing here, like this thing is moving very slowly, so you can get away from it, but there are moments, where you just want to sit down, you want to relax, you want to rest, which gives the thing a chance to catch up. So yeah, rules are very important when you're dealing with some kind of supernatural thing because it can make the film scarier in many ways.
See? Everything's okay.
This was the first movie in a long time to give me a nightmare. That is not common with horror movies. I watch horror movies all the time, and yes, and it's very rare that I will have a nightmare based on a horror movie I watched. It Follows was the first horror movie to do that in a very long time, so that's one of the reasons why it has a special place in my heart. But yeah, It Follows. I think it's a great movie. I think it has some wonderful tension, some legitimately scary moments. Yeah, I love the way it accumulates tension around this idea. It Follows is a great example of simplicity in horror going a long way. So yeah, It Follows, fantastic movie. If you have not seen it, highly recommend checking it out.
Greg.